Hi, today we'll be looking at a story entitled Ordeal by Cheque by Werther Crew. It originally published in Vanity Fair in 1932. Just to get you thinking, have you ever read a story that's not a story? What might that look like? How can one image tell a story? Well, perhaps you've been in a museum and you've seen a photograph, or maybe you've looked online and seen a painting, and truly you can appreciate the art. But I think most viewers are coming up with a story as well. You're going to be looking at a series of checks that are written from 1903 to 1931, and that's all the story is, a series of checks. And you are expected to come up with your own story. You have to use your inferences, what you know and what you might imagine happened in the story by what is given to you there. So first of all, let's consider the title, Ordeal by Cheque. So ordeal means a painful or a horrible experience, especially a protracted or a very long one. So again, this story is almost 30 years in the making. Also, you might notice that the writer didn't use Cheque, the American spelling, but the British. So does that mean then that one of the characters is British? I don't know. The etymology or the origin of infer, which is what you'll be doing, literally means to bring into or carry in. So you have to use what you already know when you make inferences, and what you know is by what is shown in the story. Specifically with the checks, what information is given in the checks. To infer means to deduce or conclude information from evidence and reasoning rather than from explicit statements. So the writer of this story does not give you any adverbs describing how somebody felt or said something, but you have to infer that yourself. So you're going to make your own story and interpretation using inferences about plot, what happens, the characters, who they are and what they're like, and the conflicts within the story. Now, there's only two characters. There's a senior and a junior, so it's going to be two men. I challenge you to explore below the iceberg for beyond what we see. So let's take a look at what Hemingway says about this. It's his iceberg theory. If a writer of prose knows enough about what he is writing about, he may omit things that he knows. And the reader, if the writer is writing truly enough, will have a feeling of those things as strongly as though the writer had stated them. The dignity of movement of an iceberg is due to only 1/8 of it being above water. And that's pretty much what this story is. It's about 1/8 above water, and you have to find out what's below. In the PDF version of this presentation, you can click on this video. It's only about 2 minutes, and it explains about checks because you all are much younger than I am, and you might not know how to write a check or what it's all about. The materials that you'll need for this story, or the actual story, a PDF version's been given to you. You might want to use your character handouts, perhaps the last on presentation and handout, to help you know how to characterize these two characters, and perhaps the other ones, who the checks are written to. You might need to have your essential questions handout with you, as well as maybe any highlighters or writing utensils so you can annotate or make notes. So the directions: read the checks closely in their numbered order. You may be confused at first, but press on. You'll need to read this story at least once, probably 2 or 3 times, paying attention to the recipients, who is writing the checks, the dates, and also the dollar amounts. You could also spend time grouping them in sections too, if that's helpful. Take time to explore and think about dates and world events. What was happening in the world? Consider the economic and political climates of this time period and how they might affect these characters. As you read, jot down notes and make any, you might want to make a character web. You may list the professions, perhaps, their personality traits, and their connections amongst one another. Your teacher may give you specific things to look for as well. The first time that you read, consider these things. Who are the recipients? Who's getting the money? When is each check written? And how much is being spent? So that way you just know on a surface level what's going on. But the second and perhaps third time that you read, you should consider these questions here. Are there any parallels among the checks? Are there any days or time periods in which more checks are written? And who receives the large amounts? Why the change, perhaps? So this lesson is actually studied, or this story is taught not only in English classes, but in different disciplines as well, because it helps students understand how to infer and gives them practice. And hopefully you'll be encouraged that you know a lot more than you think you do just by powers of observation. So this isn't just for this story, but for anything that you might come in contact with in other classes and in college as well. You read, you reflect, and you infer.